I mean, it gets a little hairy because the time and the Prince, that feud was very real. But there's no love lost. He really
People want to know about D'Angelo and I. I mean, my life does not start or stop with D'Angelo. Life goes on. It was going on before I met him. It will continue to go on. And I'll tell you the nature of the industry based on a secret that I recently found out from someone who is credible, that let me in on some things that I didn't know even up until lately.
Y'all, looks like D'Angelo is finally breaking his silence about his relationship with Angie Stone when he was just 19. But if that's not wild enough, this comes right after the tragic passing of Angie in a road accident. Or get this, she was the only one who didn't make it. Red flags, anyone? Maybe it was just an accident, or maybe there's more to the story. Could this be a setup from the labels? And now that she's gone, D'Angelo is opening up about what really went down back in the day. How has he ended up having a little one with the woman in her 30s when he was still a teenager? Y'all, let's get into it. Y'all, the streets have been talking, and even though Angie Stone passed away, they're saying that she was out here hunting, if you know what I mean. And I'm not even exaggerating, because when she met D'Angelo, he was just 19 when they got together, and Angie, she was well into her 30s and already established in the music industry. And to top it all off, they had a son together in 1998, which means she wasn't just dating a teenager, she was building a family with him. Like what's really going on? But the tea didn't stop there. Y'all remember that hit, I wish I didn't miss you anymore? The word in the streets is that it was about D'Angelo after they broke up. And why did they break up? Allegedly, it was because he cheated on her. Now, I'm not condoning cheating, but when you're in a relationship with someone who's barely out of high school,
girl to me. Of course, D'Angelo and I were very good friends. But I need for you to know that as wonderful as that friendship has been, it came with a lot of challenges.
what do you expect? But here's where the messed up part is. When people talked about their relationship back in the day, they weren't focused on the real issue, which was the fact that she was an adult talking to a teenager. No, they were just too busy clowning Angie for her appearance. People were dragging her because she was chocolate and plus sized, when the real problem was that she was in an inappropriate relationship. And that's the sad part. Society was more concerned with how she looked than what she did. Well, allegedly, D'Angelo was an insecure but insanely talented young man who just started out in the music industry. And Angie, on the other hand, was already well established, and she had the connections, the money, the fame, and the life experience. And that's not a power imbalance, then I don't know what is.
Your first child was by another label mate, Lil Rodney C.
From the Funky Four, plus one more.
There you go.
Yeah, and we ended up getting together. We got married for a short stint and had a daughter. And as time would have it, life happened, and that didn't last. I was only 22.
Now, plus, she had already been married before and had a daughter. So we're talking about a grown woman with the whole life behind her getting involved with a 19-year-old who was still figuring out who he was. And that's exactly why so many people were calling this a grooming relationship. Because while D'Angelo may have been legally an adult, but mentally, he was still a kid. And science backs that up. The human brain frontal lobe doesn't fully develop until 25 years old, which means decision-making and impulse control are still a work in progress at 19. But let's not forget, D'Angelo was known to be reserved and shy. He didn't even like the sex symbol image that was pushed on him later in his career. He later said that he gained weight on purpose just to change how female fans perceived him. So you can only imagine how vulnerable he was when he first got into the industry, and Angie allegedly took full advantage of that. Now, some people want to play devil's advocate and say, well, maybe D'Angelo liked older women. I mean, he was legal. And you know what? There might be some truth to that, because his daughter Imani's mom, Marsha, is also older than him, so he might have a little older woman pattern. But here's the thing, this kind of situation isn't even rare in the music industry. We've heard the stories before, young artists getting mentored by older artists, much more established figures, and the next thing you know, they're in an inappropriate relationship that nobody questions because the industry turned a blind eye. But if these artists do try to speak out, they either get blackballed or paid off to keep quiet, just like Jay-Z allegedly did to Foxy Brown. And we all know there have been some industry rumors.
Allegedly a romantical thing. It's all right, I'll say alleged, but we know. Yeah, she hit it before Beyonce.
So when people say Angie was just helping D'Angelo or mentoring him, I'm giving it a side eye. I'm sorry. RIP to Angie Stone, but let's just keep it real. This mentorship was looking like a whole lot of manipulation. But allegedly, and I'm only saying allegedly, because there are some people saying that in the industry, they knew exactly what Angie was doing with D'Angelo, and they're saying that it was messy. Word in the streets is that an employee from the company representing D'Angelo straight up sent letters to industry professionals, putting Angie all the way on blast. These letters claimed that Angie was introducing D'Angelo to substances, allegedly buttering him up before you know what. And listen, if that's true, that's just not grooming, it's a whole new level of hunter behavior. And it didn't stop there. The letters also said that Angie was controlling and hard to work with, which ended up damaging her career. Now, I know some people might be thinking, well, maybe this was just industry politics, but let's put two and two together. When people on the inside start calling out all the weirdness of your relationship, it's not just gossip, y'all. It might be a pattern.
It was told to me that they were single-handedly put in charge of sending out letters everywhere to make people think that I was the cause of him being exposed to alcohol, to drugs, to...
But this is where things could get even more complicated. Angie herself admitted that these letters made their rounds in the industry and seriously hurt her reputation. But she also said that she doesn't blame D'Angelo for it. She believes he had no idea what was going on behind the scenes and blames his business handlers instead. But you know what? I believe her on that part, because we already know D'Angelo was young, shy, and still figuring things out. He wasn't the one pulling the strings in his career, his team was. And if his business handlers saw that Angie was doing and decided they needed to step in, that tells you just how bad things might have been. But again, when we start connecting the dots, the picture just gets messier. After everything D'Angelo went through with Angie Stone, it's no surprise his life took a downward spiral. And y'all, that spiral was steep. We're talking addiction struggles, arrests, and some wild allegations that had the streets buzzing. D'Angelo ended up getting arrested later on, and guess what he was allegedly out looking for? Substances. And that's not even the half of it. The trauma this man allegedly went through was so deep that when he tried to solicit smecks from a pleasure house, and the person he got turned out to be an undercover cop, the streets started speculating that he had actually been looking for a trans man. The rumors were running wild on these old LSA threads, and listen, we don't know for sure what his preferences were that night, but the whole situation was strange enough to raise a lot of eyebrows. And if you take a look back at the time of his arrest, D'Angelo wasn't the man we all remembered from that iconic "How does it feel" type of video. You know, when he had everybody, and I do mean everybody, ready to risk it all. Sorry, my boy, it's only you. But listen, by the time of his arrest, yeah, he was out of shape, looking unkempt and clearly battling his demons, and he was struggling with alcoholism and substance use, and his wealth wasn't what it used to be. The glow up had turned into a glow down, and it was hard to watch. But the thing that really had people talking was the fact that this man, who could have had almost any woman he wanted in his prime, was allegedly out here offering just $40 to a street worker. And that's why so many people believe that there was more to the story. Was he really out here looking for a quick fix, or was there something deeper going on? Was this a sign of his trauma catching up to him, the fallout from his relationship with Angie Stone, or the pressure of the industry all coming to a head? There were so many questions and so few answers. But now with Angie Stone's sudden tragic passing, Dangelo finally feels comfortable speaking his truth, and it might be time for that. And speaking of Angie's passing, we need to talk about these red flags surrounding her sudden and tragic death, because something about this whole situation just ain't right. So Angie and her band were traveling in a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter headed to Atlanta after a Mardi Gras concert in Mobile, Alabama. The van overturned on Interstate 65, which was very suspicious, and then a Freightliner semi-truck slammed into it, and get this, Angie was the only fatality. Now, how is this the whole van full of people that she's the only one who didn't make it? I mean, we're grateful for that, but I don't know about y'all, it's given a little bit of a setup, and the streets are already speculating that the labels had beef that might have had a hand in this. But let's not forget, Angie had a long history of speaking out against the music industry, and we know the industry doesn't like when artists get too loud about their mistreatment.
R&B singer Angie Stone has died in a car crash. We're told she had just finished a concert in Mobile, Alabama Friday, was heading to Atlanta when the van she was riding in crashed. It's still not clear why they crashed or how the...
After a massive success of her debut album Black Diamond, she moved to J Records, which was run by the legendary Clive Davis. But things got messy real quick with him. When she started working on her third album, she wanted to call it Diary of a Soul Sister, featuring legends like Gladys Knight and Chaka Khan. But then Alicia Keys dropped the Diary of Alicia Keys, and Clive Davis told Angie to change her whole concept. That right there, that was the beginning of the drama, and Angie felt like her artistic vision was getting stumped on. And when she saw the label wasn't supporting her how they should, she asked to be released, and they let her go in 2005. After leaving J Records, she signed with Stax Records and dropped The Art of Love and War in 2007, and it was a hit. It hit number 11 on the Billboard 200 and topped the R&B hip-hop charts. But even with that success, Angie felt like Stax didn't know how to promote an artist of her experience and caliber. It was the same story, a talented black woman being underappreciated and overlooked. But now there's even more where things get messy. Y'all, when Angie Stone's story isn't just about record labels doing her dirty, it involves some major industry names. And one of those names, Miss Mary J. Blige. When Mary was first coming up at Uptown Records, Kurt Woodley, Mary's manager at the time, personally asked Angie to mentor Mary. He literally told Angie that Mary reminded him of her, and being the good-hearted soul she was, Angie agreed. But guess what? Mary never showed any kind of gratitude, never gave Angie her flowers, never publicly acknowledged the help she got. And if that wasn't shady enough, Mary allegedly took a song Angie had recorded with Dangelo without her permission. Now, we already know the industry is cutthroat, but this, if it's true, it's straight up grimy. And Angie was out here helping artists, and instead of getting thanks, she got her work snatched. But it gets even deeper because somehow Diddy's name gets pulled into this too. Angie claimed that during all this drama, Diddy had never spoken to her, not once. But one day, out of the nowhere, he approached her and asked her to pray with him. Now, why would Diddy suddenly be crying out for a prayer like that? Well, this was right after the tragic 1991 charity basketball game stampede in CCNY, a deadly incident that left 9 people dead and many injured. The news was spreading and Diddy was reportedly getting threats, so according to Angie, he was scared for his life and saw the God in her. So she said he was crying out for help, but letting her know he was still a real soul who feared God.
And he said, my name is Kurt Woodley. I said, yeah. He said, we found an artist that she kind of sounds like you. She reminds us of you, but she's not, polished. And Puffy came to me, first time, speaking to me as a decent human being. And he said, hey, Miss Stone. I said, yeah, what's up? He said, how are you? I said, I'm fine. I'm shocked you speaking to me. He said, Miss Stone, would you please pray with me? They were singling him out, and I don't think that he thought he was going to survive it.
But listen, some people believe that conversation may have gone deeper than just a prayer session. With Diddy's up-and-coming trial set for May, there's speculation that whatever he told Angie during that emotional moment could have been incriminating. Allegedly, of course. But y'all know Diddy and Clive Davis are tight. Diddy has always said how much Clive mentored him, so if Angie was out here holding on some secrets that could get Diddy cooked in court, both of them would have been a reason to keep her quiet.
So I have to ask you, what was your favorite memory working with Diddy?
You know, personally, I've got to tell you, he really is a major star in this film tonight. He's his spokesman all the way through. I met him before I ever knew of him. I met him when he was 21 years old.
And then there was this money drama. In the years leading up to her passing, Angie got real vocal about financial issues with Universal Music Group. She claimed that they had been withholding her royalties for decades. She was out here saying that they took pretty much everything, and that's not something that you say lightly. She made these claims while she was battling a severe blood infection that forced her to take a break from performing, and while she was recovering, she found all these irregularities in her financial records that pointed to a possible mismanagement of her earnings. And Angie was fighting for her money back, her legacy, and her truth. We all know what happens when artists make too much noise though. When you put it all together, the picture is wild. A 30-year-old career full of label disputes, creative battles, and financial fights, and then she passes away in a car accident where she's the only fatality. It's giving convenient, it's giving cover-up, it's giving set-up. And now that Angie Stone has passed and everything is finally coming to light, from her controversial relationship with D'Angelo when he was just a teenager, to her getting blackballed by the industry to the point where she might have even been silenced, allegedly of course, it's like the floodgates have opened and the truth is spilling out. But I gotta ask y'all, do you think that Angie Stone's relationship with D'Angelo was just mentorship, or was there more to it, or was it even inappropriate? I mean, he was legal, but was Angie blackballed because she spoke out against the industry's shady practices? And do you believe her tragic passing was really an accident, or could there be more at play? I gotta know what y'all think about this. Drop your thoughts in comments below, and let's get this conversation going. And while you're at it, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell so you never miss a video. Also, check out the next video on your end screen because you definitely don't want to miss it.